All right, second part. We're looking at this diagram here and we're naming the angles that fit the different categories. This is a huge part of the test that you really need to know about. So you have the foldable notes that we made in class. You should be using those to do this section, and you should be using that to help identify the angles. It's really important that you understand where to look. You shouldn't be randomly guessing here. You should be confident in your answers. So let's talk about corresponding angles first. Corresponding angles are angles that are located in the same position. So if I look at this group of angles up here, the ones around point E, and let's say I can pick any of them that I want. Let's pick angle TEP. I'm going to mark that angle there in green. I'm going to go and write that down as part of my answer. In fact, the first angle you choose doesn't really matter, because you can find any angle that corresponds with the angle that you choose. So when I say look for an angle in the same position, you're looking down around point Q and you're saying, well, this angle here is located in basically the same position as that angle is. And it sort of will look like this. You'll notice that the two angles that you've chosen sort of match each other in terms of where they're located around that point. And so then my second point would be, you can use an and, or you can put comma, you can write the word and, angle EWD. The thing you should not be struggling with here is naming the angles. You're naming an angle, just like we did in the first unit, by listing the points, so that when you read the points, you can trace the angle based on that order. TEP, TEP, EWD. The angle is outlined by naming those points in order. And you'll notice the middle letter is always the vertex, which in this case is always going to either be E or W. All right, so that is, oops, sorry about that. That is the first one, corresponding angles. Alternate exterior angles. So when we think about exterior and interior, we need to remember that the exterior of the diagram is the areas outside of the two parallel lines here and here, and the interior is the area between the two angles right there. So we're going to be looking at exterior angles, which means we're only going to be looking at angles that are, and I'm going to mark out everything on the interior. We shouldn't be naming any of the angles in there. We should only be naming angles that are outside the angles. So let me choose a different color to help illustrate this. So again, I can pick any angle. Well, I'll just pick the same one I started with last time. I'll choose this one, angle TEP. Why not? Doesn't actually matter, because you need to understand where its partner is. So the alternate exterior angle from that is going to be the one that's on the other side of the line. So it can't be this one here. That's not going to be it. Let me erase that. That is not the answer. It's on the other side, and it's sort of the one that's inverted on the opposite side from the original angle. And so it's going to be angle RWA, and that's this angle right here, and this angle right here, and that's how we're going to name it, like that. Again, you have these diagrams that we did on the notes. You need to be utilizing those to identify the different angles. So I'm going to leave some of this up here. Let me get rid of the stuff in the middle. I'll leave the interior, exterior information. And let's look at linear pair. Now, linear pair is a review from the previous unit. And linear pair, in general, looks like this. There's going to be a line somewhere, a line, and another line coming off of it, a ray coming off of it. And we're going to name the angles right there that are next to each other. You are not going to name the line by naming 3 points in order. Like, you would not say KEP. That is not one of the answers. Or RWD. That is not what we're looking for. We are looking for the name of the two angles that form this thing that you see here in purple. For instance, I could choose a lot of answers, but if I look right here, I see that I have that formation right here. And so when I say to name those angles, I'm saying that we're naming this angle right here and this angle over here. So we have two angles that we need to name. Again, the first one, I happen to choose the same one again, which is totally fine, TEP. And then that's this one right here. And then on the other side over here is angle KET. So that would be your answer for a linear pair. And you could actually name any angles that are next to each other, like these are. In fact, any pair of angles that are next to each other here would work for that. All right, next we're back to exterior. So it's here that we're looking for same side, oh actually sorry, it says same side interior angles. So again, let's get rid of all of the exterior area. We don't need any of the angles out there. We're only going to be naming the angles that are on the interior. So let's pick one. I could pick this angle right here. Angle WEP. If that's the first angle I'm picking and I want one on the same side, then I pick one on the same side. It's right here. It's on the same side of this line down the middle. That is the transversal line, the main line that we're looking at. And so I'd pick this angle right here to go with WEP, and that's going to be angle EWD. That's this angle right here, EWD. So you notice they fill one part of this interior because they are on the same side as one another. All right, let me erase all that. And we're going to flip to the next page, and we'll kind of have to jump back and forth here a little bit. So let me change colors and go to this drawing here, which shows the next question. Alternate interior. So going back over here, we see alternate interior. Again, we are going to get rid of our exterior because we are only looking at the interior angles. And then we want to do alternate this time. So alternate would be like, let's say I chose KEW. I could choose that as my starting angle. The alternate one is not going to be the one right here, right next to it. It's going to be the one on the other side of the line, but also inverted. So it's going to be this one right here. So that's going to be angle KEW. Let's hop over there and write that down. Angle KEW and angle EWD. KEW, EWD. Those are alternate. You can see how they're sort of inverted. So EWD would be the other answer that we could put for that. All right, so going back. Let's erase what we've done. And let's do our vertical, which is the next question on your review. Vertical is going to be anytime we have angles that are across from each other at an intersection. You can see I'm marking up just so to highlight this. There's these two lines coming in right here. And on either side, I'm not just naming these lines. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm actually looking to name the angles that are across from each other. So we have a line here, we have a line here, and I would want to name something like this angle and this angle across from it. This is what it should look like. It should be an X, and it should be the angles that are on opposite sides of that. You're not just naming the X. That's not what we're looking for. So we would name here TEP. Sorry about that. And KEW. TEP and KEW. Again, just to highlight that, TEP and KEW are across from each other at that intersection point. So let's erase that, and let's talk about our next one. Name a pair of same side exterior angles. So let's go over here and let's mark out all of our interior. We're not going to do any interior stuff. We're only going to look at exterior, and they need to be on the same side. Let's start with TEP again. Why not? So this needs to be on the same side as TEP. So again, not over here, but on the same side, right down here. So TEP and AWD would be a good answer for same side exterior. TEP and AWD works. Go TEP, go AWD. So you just need to make sure you're studying those concepts. If you don't know these concepts and what they mean, then you're going to struggle on this part of the test. You should not be guessing. You should know every time what you're looking for. The last thing, what is the name for the line? the line that I'm talking about here, is this line going through the middle of these other two lines. Let me erase all this. We're talking about this line right here, and that line is called a transversal line, which is actually written right here in your question itself. And so you should be writing transversal here. All right, so let's back out here and let's get our next section brought up. See how I can do this with this size of this image. There we go, this will work fine. So here it says, for each of the following questions, determine the relationship between the two angles, it should say, and determine the measure of the angle indicated. So we're doing the opposite of what we just got done doing. This time, we are saying what the relationship is between the pair of angles that we're given, and then we're going to say what the angle should equal. Now, the thing you have to understand, and this comes from your foldable worksheet, is there's only two options. Either the angles are the same measure, or they add up to 180. And it's actually very simple to tell. So if I look at this diagram, angle 2, angle 3, angle 6, and angle 7 are all the same. Those angles all measure the same in purple. Angle 1, angle 4, angle 5, and angle 8 are also equal to each other. And any purple angle plus a blue angle, if you add a purple and a blue angle together, you get 180. So we don't really have to think much about this. We already know, based on that, all of the answers to the first parts of these questions. But we also need to know the relationship between the two angles. So looking here, 1 and 7 is going to be, they're on the exterior, and they are on the same side. That is same side, exterior. And since they are one purple and one blue, I know they have to add up to 180. That's what we're saying right here. So then that's going to be 180 minus 34, which is 46. And then I look at 3 and 6. 3 and 6 are both on the interior, so we can go and write that. And they are on alternate sides. Those are alternate interior. You can also use your little flip notes, which have all of the relationships. Again, you should know those relationships really well before you go take the test. Since 3 and 6 are both purple, that means they're the same measure. So I just copy this 35 because they have to be the same. Looking at 4 and 6, that's a purple and a blue, so they're going to be adding up to 180, but more specifically, they are same side, interior. They're on the same side of the line, and they're interior. 180 minus 32 is 148, and that is the answer for the measure of angle 4. Angle 1 and angle 5, those are corresponding. Watch previously in the video if you need help with that. Those are corresponding. Again, this is in your notes, and corresponding, they're both blue, so then they have to be 123. 8 and 5, those are at the X here, so then they are vertical, and vertical is going to be congruent because those are both blue, so then that's 107. Angle 7 and angle 3, those are also corresponding. And because 7 and 3 are both purple, then they have to be the same. 2 and 7 are both exterior, and they are on opposite sides, so that is alternate exterior. And they're both purple, which means they're both the same measure, which means that this guy is 41 as well. Sorry about that coming up. But you see the answer there. We have 51 for the last problem there. Okay, let's jump back and finish up. Looking at the last page, calculating the slope. This is just us doing rise over run. So we need to calculate how much the graph is going up, down, and how much is going left, right. Really, it's always moving to the right. So when we look at this graph, we see that to get from this point here to this point here, and that's what matters, the graph needs to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be down 4. That's a negative 4. And then it's going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, over 5. That is literally all you got to do. That is your answer for the first graph. Looking at the second graph, there are no points. That's okay. I can see pretty clearly that the graph is going to cross here at the grid, here, 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 here. You're looking for places where the graph crosses right at the grid mark. So those places I've marked are the only places where it does that. And then we're just going to count. Up 1, up 1, over 2, over 2. 1 over 2 is the answer. It is literally that straightforward. You are just counting the rise over run. Okay, very last section. You have an entire page of notes on this, and you get to use it on the test. I'm going to run through what it says on that page, but basically, if lines are parallel, they will have the same slope. The slope is the number you see with the x in each of these equations. The only one where they're the same is number 2. That is why I automatically can say number 2 is parallel. It's that straightforward because they both say -4. Finding whether or not they're perpendicular is a little bit more involved. For it to be perpendicular, this is all in the notes, so I'm just reviewing. They have to be one positive and one negative, and then the fraction that makes up the slope has to be switched. That is true of the first problem. It is positive 3 over 2 and negative 2 over 3. That checks out the first requirement. 3 over 2 flipped is 2 over 3. That checks the second requirement. That is why number 1 is perpendicular. Those lines are perpendicular. Looking at number 3, they're not the same because one's positive, one's negative. That's why it doesn't meet the requirements of being parallel. It also doesn't meet the requirements of being perpendicular. For it to be perpendicular, yes, one is positive and one is negative, so it checks that requirement, but these are not flipped versions of each other. If that's true, you're putting the none of the above option, which is concurrent. Sorry, I bled off the page there a little bit. Those are your answers and explanations for all of the review for Geometry Unit 3. So hopefully you can use that to study and prepare for the test. That's it.